the recording. Yep. So today we're going to mainly focus on visualization of numerical data. So yesterday, what we saw was for categorical data. We saw how to plot a bar chart. We saw how to plot Pareto chart, pie chart, right? So they all were for categorical data. But today we'll mainly focus on numerical one. So when I say numerical one means I mean variable which has values of height, weight, BMI, right? So those kind of variable, we'll see how to represent it in form of chart. Now, whenever we get some categorical, numerical data, the first thing we need to do, or it will be automatically done at the back end by the package which you are doing, is the sorting operations, right? So if I give you the weight of let's say 1,000 person, then first thing that is done is we sort those weights in ascending order. Okay, and then we will see uh, to come up with appropriate visual. So just to name couple of visual that we are going to see here is, definitely we'll start with the histogram. Histogram is one of the most common visual representation of numerical data, and it is one of the most favorite tool for most of the data centers, because the amount of information you get after plotting a histogram is simply huge, right? You can analyze the distribution of the data. Apart with that, you can do, you you, you can make some like initial understanding about your data. The other two are like polygon and ogive. Okay, all right.
What is the second one you said after polygon?
After polygon, ogive.
What is that? I have no idea.
Yeah, ogive is nothing but it's a cumulative frequency distribution.
Okay, I got it.
Okay. Okay, so first of all, let's see one visual which is not very obvious, not very common nowadays, but there was a time when this visual was very much uh, used by almost all statistical uh, analysis, and that name is stem and leaf display. Okay, stem and leaf display. So so in theory there is a lot of instructions to come up with a stem and leaf diagram. We will not go into that detail, because obviously we are not going to do this by pen and paper. Rather we'll look at the Pythonic way. Okay, so let me first tell you how the stem and leaf diagram looks like. See, if I give you some random ages, right? Let's say I'm having an age of some 100 random people. Okay, this 30.
Ashutosh,
Yep.
you did not share your screen.
Oh, I'm not sharing. Okay, thanks for informing me that. Let me know if I'm able to see.
Yes, we can see now.
Yep. So yeah, so this is from this part we are going to start. We are going to see the visual representation of numerical data. We're starting with stem and leaf display. So I'm saying that let's say somebody has given you the age of 100 people, right? So this is the age of 100 people. Okay, now you want to see what is the most common age. Also, what on an average, what is the value of age? I mean, what is a typical value of age around which the majority of data is concentrated, right? In a way, you want to analyze the distribution of your data. So one thing that you can do is, definitely you can go ahead and plot the histogram of it. But before that, let's see what is stem and leaf display. So what it does is, like, there's a two part of this diagram. One is called your stem part. This 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 you are seeing, which is just left hand side of this vertical line, is your stem part, and whatever which is right hand side of this vertical line is the leaf part. Okay, so how to read this diagram is like, you know, let's start from the bottom part. Okay, so there is a one person whose age is 19. 19. Okay, you see here the value is called count, and this is the age. There's a one person whose age is 19. There are total 20%, and their age is like 21, 23, 24, 24, 25, 25, 25. You're getting? This is the the stem part is your 10th digit number, whereas your leaf part is the unit digit number. You're able to understand how to read this diagram? There's a one person whose age is 19. There are total 20% in the range of 20 and 30, and their
Yes.
age is like 21, 23, 24, 24, 25, and so on.
Yes, I got it.
Now just answer me one question. What is the typical interval where you see majority of people falling, whether it's an age group of 0 to 10, 20 to 30, 30 to 40? What is the typical interval in which majority of my people age is falling? Just
38.
yep,
38 is the right answer.
I'm asking for the interval, like 0 to
Interval.
10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, like that.
70 to 80.
70 to
70 to 80.
70
Yeah.
to
Is that correct?
no
80.
No. 20 to 78. Like that.
no. See, here the answer is 30 to 40.
32. Oh, sorry.
Because majority of people, you'll see the majority of people are having age 30, 30, 30, 31, 31, 31, 32, 32, 32, like that, right? So just
30 to
look,
40.
yeah, just by looking at this figure, you know, if you look this chunk of number, and if same question, if I would have asked you, probably you would have taken more time to answer this question, right? By just looking at this number, it's not really making sense. uh, we're not able to derive insight, but the moment when we visualize this data in form of stem leaf diagram, it's very much understandable that majority of my age falls between 30 to 40 age group, right? So this distribution is centered around the interval 30 to 40. There are very less people who are younger than 20 years. In fact, there's only one person who is having age 19, right? Getting?
And there is also one person whose age is 52.
Yes. All right. So are you able to understand this? How this distribution is able to make inferences about this data? Yep. So
Yep.
this is so this is the power of visualization. If we look this one, it's very difficult to understand anything, but the moment we transform this data in form of some appropriate visual, the things become easy. Okay. Now going to the next part, frequency distribution. So this is a graphical way of doing it. Frequency distribution is a tabular way of doing it. So again, the other option that you could have done in this case is like, you could have created different classes, a class of, let's say, age group 0 to 10, and you could have counted the number of people and put that number beside that class. You could have counted the number of people who are having age between 10 to 20. Like that, you could have created a class and mark their corresponding frequencies in another column. That is another option you could have done, right? So that is nothing but it is called frequency distributions. We, from this data, we tried to come up with different classes of some constant interval and write their corresponding frequency. Okay, so let's say that I have given you the temperature of 20 consecutive day. Okay, and you have to come up with a frequency table out of it. Okay, for time being, do not look at the code part. I'll explain how this is being done. Just understand what is frequency table. Okay, you could have done this entire thing with pen and paper also, In fact, that is what we used to do when we were reading this in high school and college days. Okay, but I like to do everything in Python. That's why I have written a Python code for doing this, though it's very simple. So first of all, we have to come up different classes, right? So here is what I'm talking about. So from this data, you have created different classes. You have created like a class of 10 to 20. The temperature which is lying between 10 degree and 20 degree, 20 degree and 30 degree, 30 to 40, 40 to 50, 50 to 60. And what is the count of total temperature in that class? So you see that there are total 3 days where the temperature was between 10 to 20. There were total 6 days out of 20 where the temperature was between 20 to 30. And just wanted to inform you about one notation. Wherever you see that there is a square bracket in the class interval, that means that that particular number is inclusive. And if you see this small bracket, then it means that this particular number is not included. That means we will include that day where the temperature is 10, but we will not include that day where the temperature is 20. Right? So we have converted this data into this frequency table. So this column and this column is clear to you? The next column is the relative.
Yes.
The next column is the column of relative frequency, which is nothing but just division of your frequency of the class and total number of days. So it is like 30 divided by 20 because you have total 20 days record. 6 divided by 20. 5 divided by 20. Right? And then you have taken the percentage. I see one issue here. These values are not correct.
This is not correct.
Yep, this is not
No.
correct. I just noticed this. This is not correct. What should have come here? 3 divided by 20, 6 divided by 20, 5 divided by 20, 4 divided by 20, 2 divided by 20. Okay. So this column is wrong. This column is correct. Cumulative frequency. Cumulative frequency means 3. Then you'll add this one and this one record 9. 9 plus 5, 14. 14 plus 4, 18. 18 plus 2, 20. Okay. So this way you have summarized this big chunk of data into frequency table, which is a bit easier to comprehend. I'm not very much fond of this frequency table because I feel visual way of representing data is always better. But yeah, this is one of the common technique you'll see most of the people doing. Is it clear?
Yes, Ashutosh.
All right. Clear to everyone?
Yeah. But are you moving towards cumulative frequency next after that relative frequency?
Yeah, after relative frequency, we are having cumulative frequency.
Oh, yeah.
What was your question? This was only,
Like,
right?
are you also calculating cumulative frequency out of that?
Yep. We are calculating the cumulative frequency out of this. So that for that only frequency is required. This table, the value would have been different, but I think in code there was some issue. Okay. Now, see now comes a very important part, histogram, because this is the most commonly used visual you'll see for numerical data. So I'm having the same data, right? I am having the temperature of 20 days. In order to represent this data in histogram, I'll just use my matplotlib function. We showed matplotlib day before yesterday also, and we have alias data as plt, right? So from that matplotlib, I'm invoking a function called hist, which is for histogram. I'm just passing the list which is having the temperature of 20 days. Okay, and you'll see that this plot is ready. So now you can see that the typical temperature, I mean the most common temperature was somewhat around between 26 to 30, because for this range the height of bar is maximum, right? I'm sure you must have seen histogram many time earlier also.
Yep.
So this is the histogram. We'll see histogram many times in upcoming lecture also, but just for the sake of completion, this is the histogram. In x-axis you'll have the temperature, in y-axis you'll have the count, right? So out of the 20 days, there were 4 days where the temperature was between 28 or 30, like that, the width of this bar. Okay, it's very unlikely to have temperature more than 50 degrees Celsius, because we are having only one record for that. So these are the conclusions we can draw from histogram. Apart this, we can see the table, I mean the distribution of data also. All right. The next visual we are having is ogive, or in other words, it is also called as cumulative percentage polygon. The other name is percentage polygon, but most commonly we term it ogive. Now it is particularly useful when we are having 2 or more groups to compare, right? So far we have been dealing with only one group. We were having only one list, right? But what if I gave you 2 lists? If I give you the height of 2 community, right? One from Asia, one from America, and if I ask you to compare these heights in some visual way, so in that particular scenario, ogive comes in picture. Okay, so how do we draw ogive? Ogive is nothing very fancy. It's somewhat uh, drawn from histogram only, right? So let's say that I'm having a class interval 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Okay, that means I'll have record like 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 40 to 50, 50 to 60. Okay, but before that, let me show you how the ogive looks like. Okay, so this is how the ogive looks like. I'm having in x-axis, I'm having class interval. Okay, 20 to 25, 25 to 30, 30 to 35, or you can say that 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 40 to 50, 50 to 60, which was mentioned in the data. Okay, the next thing is how much is the count of item in that particular interval, right? So here you'll see that the count is like between 0 to 2, the count is like 3. So you see here dot, and then the count between 20 to 30 was 5. So 5 plus 3, 8. You will see a dot here in 8 at y-axis. So it's just a representation of cumulative frequency, and it will be always ever increasing because we are summing up every consecutive observation. Is it making sense? Please let me know if you are having any question, doubt, not able to understand. I can rephrase it in some other way also.
Yeah, I only have doubt, like, would it always increase, and can you reason out why?
Yep, of course. See, all right. Let's say I'm having a class 0 to 10. Okay, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40. Okay, so this will come in your x-axis. Clear? This will come in your x-axis. In y-axis, what will come is, you have given a frequency also. So we said that there are total, let's say there are 3 people who are at the age, I mean whose age are in between 0 to 10. There are 2 people who are having an age between 10 to 20. 4 and 5. Okay, so you have given this data as frequency table. Now you want to plot this ogive. How would you do that? First of all, 0 to 10, what is the frequency? 3, right? After that, 10 to 20, what is the frequency? 2. But what you will plot? 5. 3 plus 2, 5. After that, 20 to 30, what is the frequency? 4. But what you will plot? 4 plus 2 plus 3.
I got it.
Right? Yep. So this is ever increasing because every
Like I
consecutive,
was having doubt that when it is like this kind of frequency, 3,2,4,5. So I found it to be irregular. Then how? I never thought that it should be like,
yep,
come up with the.
got it. Yeah. See, so don't get confused. In the name itself, it is written cumulative, right? Cumulative
Yeah,
means,
cumulative.
yeah,
Just
it
need to
is,
sum up.
yeah. Okay. So far, whatever we have been doing, that was the part of univariate analysis. So univariate analysis means when we are having single observation. I mean single variable. Okay. I was comparing height versus height. I was comparing height versus weight. Right. What if I want to compare height versus weight? So far we have been doing univariate analysis. Now we have to do multivariate analysis where we want to find the relationship between two or more than two variables. Okay. So one way of doing that is called cross tabulations, right? Which is also called the contingency table. Okay. Let me give an example. So just think of this table. Okay. So what we did is we did some survey and we asked 7,500 people. Few of them were male, few of them were female, about their sentiment about certain brand, and we asked them whether, what do you think, whether the brand value of this car has been increased compared to previous 10 year, or it has been declined, or it is equal, right? So out of that 7,500 people, 450 male more told that the brand value has increased, right? 300 female told that the brand value has increased. 3,300 people said that no, that brand value has either remained same or decreased, and so for female also, right? So now I'm having two variable here. One is gender, the other is sentiment of people about brand, right? So I'm able to summarize those two variables in form of this cross tabulation, right? Is it clear?
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. Clear to all? Let's see how many people we have today. Shutanshu, is it clear to you? Zara, are you clear with this?
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir, Shitosh.
All right. Yep. Keep communicating, no? Otherwise, I feel like maybe I'm not audible or I have disconnected. I'm teaching to myself.
Sure.
Yep. So
No, nothing. Yeah.
so let's try to make this session more interactive.
Okay.
Now let us see how we can compare two variables by visual representation. Okay, so this is one of the very common plot that we do for numerical data, which is called scatter plot. Okay, so let's say that I have given you two variable. One variable is uh, the let's say one variable I have given you the number of material you produce. Okay, and the other variable is the cost you the sales you make out of it. Okay, so what do you think, what kind of relationship you see between these two variable? The two variable is, one variable is the number of product you build every day. The second variable is the amount of money you make after selling those product. What do you think, what kind of relationship can happen can be between these two variable?
both are like, related to each other.
Yes. So what kind of relationship you expect?
Direct relationship.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah. So there is a term for that. There is something called linear relationship. Linear relationship, which means what?
Okay.
More number of item you'll create, the chances that you'll make more money out of it is high, right? So if one is increasing, the other is also increasing. If one is decreasing, the other is also decreasing. So there is a linear relationship between x and y, right? So when we plot this x and y variable, you'll see that a straight line, more like a something like a straight line. Okay, and how do we do that? Again, we are having using the same package called matplotlib, right? Import matplotlib as plt. So this plt dot scatter. So now you want to create a scatter plot. You'll just use a function called scatter. You'll you will pass your x variable, you will pass your y variable, which is having those values, right? And then it will generate this scatter plot for you. Very simple. When we had to do bar plotting, what we did, instead of scatter, there was we mentioned bar here. When we had to do pie chart, we wrote here pie. For scatter, we wrote scatter. So it's very much intuitive, right? Whatever kind of plot you want to generate, corresponding to that, you have to invoke function. And the function name is also very intuitive. For scatter plot, it is scatter. For bar plot, it is bar. For uh, line plot, it is simply plot.
Ashutosh, I have a request.
Mm-hmm.
All these functions, can you list out and send it to us so that I can remember them?
Sure. Yep.
That would be easy because the next class I would forget. Okay, what does that function has in
Mhm.
it?
Yep. I can do that. But the exhaustive list of all these functions that you will learn after with experience only, right? It is based on the use case.
Right. But still, if we have to use it, we can remember them.
Yep. I can create some cheat sheet and send it to you so that you can refer it handy. Okay. The next part is.
Yeah, Ashutosh, I was asking you one question.
Mhm.
Can you scroll up?
Okay.
Yeah, can you explain what it means like grid is true?
Yep. Grid true, no? Yeah. So this is something which you must have seen in all of my visual. Here also you must have seen grid equal to true. So this is nothing but if you want to draw this horizontal and vertical lines, you typically use grid. If I'll not use this grid, you'll see that those line will not come, right?
Oh, okay.
So
Mhm.
it just helps user to understand the data well. Now you see that this point is having
Nice.
x axis 4, y is somewhat around between 400 and 420, right? So just a reference.
Like she was asking, what is that? Why did you mention true in it? Like, is it a function
Yeah,
name? Or,
it is just an argument. True means I want this line. If I'll write here
okay.
false, you'll not find those lines.
Yeah, got it.
All right. All right. Now, before we jump to the next part, let me uh, give you some of the tips that you should keep in mind while making a plot. Okay. The very first thing is always remember that while making a plot, make sure that you don't distort the data. Okay. Sometimes what happens is like people try to make a fancy diagram, and in that fancifulness, they tends to temper the data, right? So don't ever do that mistake. It's okay if your plot is not looking very visually appealing, but still whatever fact you are trying to portray, it should be correct. Okay. Do not add unnecessary uh, add ornaments. So when I say ornaments, do not add unnecessary thing which is not adding value to it, right? For example, like here, what are the things that I could have removed? although I have tried to I have tried to follow all the principles to make this plot, but what is the one thing that you think, if I would have removed from this graph, still the graph would not have lost its essence?
I think everything is needed here. You have x-axis and y-axis representing
Yes.
some values, and then you have dots. And one thing is, remember, is like the cumulative frequency which is joining the dots is missing actually.
Yes.
It's nothing to be removed but added.
Yep.
Should need to be added.
Yep. In terms of removal, the only thing I can think of is, maybe I can get rid of this bars, right? If I'll remove this bar, still you will be able to understand the pattern, right?
But we need scale to measure, see like where the dots are falling.
Yeah. Agreed.
Visually it won't be, so visible or clear.
Yep. That's true. But again, it depends upon the problem statement you're having. If you just wanted to understand the pattern in data, then maybe you can get rid of those vertical lines, because here you can clearly see that there's a linear relationship, right? So it depends what you are trying to get out of that graph. If you have to do with this scale, then definitely I understand that having those grids, vertical and horizontal, may help you to understand this a bit easier. But if you're just interested in understanding this relationship, probably you can live with this also. Am I correct? Are you able to follow?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it looks like on a blank you're plotting the points. Usually if the frequency tables are drawn on the graph, so graph being
Yes. Yep. Correct.
it is needed.
Yes. Also, just keep one thing in mind is, like, you're trying to communicate something with your audience, right, with these visuals. So many times what happens is, the people who are to whom we are trying to communicate, they are colorblind also, and we don't know that part, right? So it's good that we use lesser colors, or even if you have to use colors, we use those colors which is something like, what I'm trying to say is, choose your color keeping in mind that the people who are perceiving your figure may be colorblind also. So what funda strategy, what I try to follow is, I prefer to use lesser color, and as far as possible, I try to keep my visual plain and blank with white background. Okay. So the only point which I'm trying to say here is, try to reduce unnecessary adornments in your graph, which may improve the visual appeal of it, but at the cost of your data. Okay. Try to keep it simple. That's the main principle. The next thing is, always your x-axis and y-axis should start with scale 0, and all the axes should be properly labeled. So here I have used x-axis labeled, y-axis is labeled. I could have added title here, but I missed. So that is something, take care. Always put title in your graph, so that a user can understand what this graph is trying to communicate. Okay, the graph should have contain title. The simplest possible graph should be used for the given set of data. Simple is better. That is a simple logic we have to follow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I got it. I'll keep in mind all those features of good graph.
Yes. Yep. I'll tell you some if you'll
Hello, Ashutosh.
yeah.
So starting with 0, what do we have to mention?
Just a second. Let me pull that note first. Yeah, I'm saying that your x-axis and y-axis should start with always 0.
Okay.
Right. I'll show you some of the example of
How
that.
do we in the program? Like it should start with 0 in the code.
What is your question?
Like in the code, how do we write so that the graph should be started from 0?
Yep. So in most of the time, your code will be intelligent enough to start with 0 itself. But however, in some situations, if it doesn't start, there is a syntax for that, which is called PLT X lim 0 to whatever upper limit you are having. Okay. This will always make sure that your x-axis, you're setting a limit in your x-axis, right, which starts with 0 and ends to the upper value you are having for that particular variable. Okay, so this is
Okay.
so this is a syntax can help you, but most of the time your Python package will take care of it. Okay, all right. We'll start the next topic tomorrow. It's hardly 1 minute left, but so far we are good, right?
Ashutosh, when you said like 0 to upper,
Mhm.
the word which you used upper,
Mhm.
is it a keyword that system understands?
No. It is just for your intuitions. So here the upper,
For my indication.
yep.
So when you're saying 0 comma